Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today, we're going to explore the life of Edward H. Rulloff.
Edward H. Rulloff.
Yeah, maybe not a household name, but this guy,
Okay.
he was really something in the 19th century. A brilliant scholar, a cunning criminal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a wild story. We're using his Wikipedia entry as our guide, and I gotta say, it's a fascinating read.
Sounds intriguing. What makes his story so captivating?
Well, think about it. This guy was a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher even.
Wow, a real Renaissance man.
Exactly. And on top of all that, he designed carpets, dabbled in photography, and was really into phrenology.
Phrenology.
The study of skull shapes. It was a big thing back then.
Oh, right, like they thought the bumps on your head could tell you about your personality and intelligence.
Yeah, exactly. And Roloff, being the curious mind that he was, he dove right into it.
I could see how someone like him would be drawn to that. Always pushing the boundaries, exploring new ideas.
He was also super into philology, the study of language. He even developed his own theory about how language evolved, which,
Interesting.
yeah, we'll get to that later. But it makes you wonder, with all this intellectual firepower, how did he end up on the wrong side of the law?
Good question. It's not like he lacked the brains for a legitimate career.
Right. But even before the murders that made him infamous, he had a run-in with the law. Embezzlement, early 20s.
Embezzlement, huh? So there were hints of a darker side even then.
Seems like it. But then in 1844, things took a really dark turn. He was accused of murdering his wife, Harriet,
Oh, wow.
and their infant daughter, Priscilla.
His own wife and child?
Yeah. The story goes that he claimed Harriet had been unfaithful, and in a fit of rage, he killed her with a pestle.
A pestle. Like from a mortar and pestle.
Yeah. Then he poisoned his daughter.
That's horrifying. To think he could harm his own child?
It's a chilling thought. Apparently, he planned to take his own life after that,
Oh, wow.
but couldn't go through with it. Instead, he tried to cover his tracks.
How so?
He borrowed a wagon, told neighbors he was taking his family out of town.
A staged disappearance?
Exactly. Tried to create a whole smokescreen, but of course people started noticing the inconsistencies.
I can imagine. Like Harry's family probably knew about the problems in the marriage.
Yeah, and her belongings were still at home. So the authorities launched an investigation.
Did they find any evidence?
They couldn't find the bodies, and this is where Roloff's legal knowledge came in handy.
Oh, how so?
Because they couldn't prove a murder had happened, the grand jury charged him with kidnapping instead.
Kidnapping. That's a clever legal move.
Right, he knew the system inside and out. Even represented himself in court, argued there wasn't enough evidence.
Bold move.
It was, but the jury wasn't buying it. He was found guilty, sentenced to 10 years of hard labor at Auburn Prison.
10 years hard labor. You'd think that would be enough to break someone.
Yeah, but for Roloff, it was just the beginning of a whole new chapter. Get this, while he was in prison, he didn't just sit around and wallow. He dove deeper into his intellectual pursuits, studied more philology, and even started teaching other inmates.
Wait, he was allowed to teach while serving time?
It's incredible, right? It shows you the power of his intellect and maybe his charisma, too.
Makes you wonder if the authorities saw some potential in him or were just completely naive to his manipulative side.
It's a good question, one we're still grappling with today in our own justice system.
True, true. Rehabilitation versus punishment, it's a complex issue.
It is. But just when it seemed like Roloff might be turning his life around, he got some news that sent him spiraling back down a dark path.
What happened?
Tompkins County was waiting to charge him with the murder of his wife as soon as he was released.
Oh, wow, so he was facing a murder charge on top of his prison sentence.
Yeah, and faced with that, he decided to take drastic measures. He escaped.
He escaped from prison how?
It was a pretty audacious escape. He had help from an unlikely source, the family of the Ithaca undersheriff.
The undersheriff's family. Why would they help him?
It's believed that the undersheriff's son, Albert Jarvis, played a key role.
Albert Jarvis. Okay.
Rulloff had actually been Jarvis's tutor in Greek and Latin before his imprisonment.
Interesting. So they had a prior connection.
They did, and it seems that relationship had turned into some kind of loyalty, a bond that went beyond the law.
A bond forged through shared knowledge and perhaps a sense of indebtedness. That's quite a twist.
It is. The escape wasn't easy, though. Rulloff had to flee on foot in the middle of winter, headed west towards Pennsylvania.
Wow, that's a grueling journey, especially in winter.
Yeah, and to make matters worse, he lost a few toes to frostbite during that escape.
Lost his toes. Ouch.
A detail that would come back to haunt him later on, but that's a story for another time.
Okay, so Roloff's on the run, minus a few toes, but his intellect is still intact. What happens next? I'm hooked. So he's on the run, no toes, but still brilliant. What'd he do? Lay low.
You'd think, right, after that escape, he'd want to just disappear, but no.
No.
This is Rulloff we're talking about.
Right.
He couldn't resist the pull of his own intelligence.
What do you mean?
He tried to get a professorship at a college. Use a fake name, of course.
Wait, hold on. He thought he could just walk into academia like nothing happened.
Yeah, pretty audacious, right? Like his brain power could charm his way out of anything.
And?
Well, his past caught up with her. Albert Jarvis.
Oh, right, the undersheriff's son.
Yeah, the one who helped him escape. They were struggling financially, him and his mother. Saw Rulloff as their ticket to, stability.
Because he owed them?
Yeah, kinda. They helped him escape. Now it's his turn to return the favor. And how does a brilliant Melon with a criminal past help someone out?
Let me guess. Robbery?
Bingo. Targeted a jewelry store. Figured he'd give the money to Jarvis and his mom.
Talk about twisted loyalty. But wait, wasn't there still that murder conviction hanging over his head?
There was, but get this. He appealed it and was acquitted.
What? How is that even possible?
It's kind of wild, right? The lack of a body in his wife's case made it hard to prosecute, and maybe there were some procedural errors or even politics at play. Who knows?
So he was free, despite literally everything.
Free as a bird. But did he take this second chance to go straight? Not exactly.
What'd he do?
Teamed up with Jarvis, back to their old tricks in New York City.
He just couldn't stay away from a life of crime, huh?
Seems that way. The allure of easy money and outsmarting the law, it was too strong, I guess.
It really makes you wonder what was driving him. Necessity, boredom, some kind of intellectual thrill.
Hard to say. Maybe a bit of everything. But their New York adventures landed him back in prison. Sing Sing this time.
Sing Sing. Wow. You'd think that would be the end of the line.
You'd think. But while he was there, serving time for burglary this time, something interesting happened.
Okay, what now?
Remember his obsession with philology?
The language thing, right?
Yeah. He'd been working on this theory about language evolution for years and sought opportunity.
To publish his work.
Even bolder, the American Philological Association was having its first ever convention in Poughkeepsie.
I am.
Rulloff, under the alias Professor Yuri Loriot, submitted a manuscript, Method in the Formation of Language, he called it.
Hold on, he tried to crash an academic conference under a fake name? That's next level chutzpah.
Oh yeah, he was convinced his work was groundbreaking, revolutionary even. Imagine that, a notorious criminal among these esteemed scholars.
So did he blow them away with his brilliance?
Not quite. They rejected his manuscript.
Ouch.
And to add insult to injury, he tried to auction it off for a starting price of $500,000.
$500,000? For a manuscript?
He really thought he had something special, but no takers.
Oof. Rejected by the academics, no fortune to be made. What's a genius to do?
Well, he still needed money, and that, my friend, leads us to the Binghamton robbery.
The one that I'm guessing changes everything.
This is where things get really intense.
So Rulloff's ego proves, no academic accolades, and still broke. What happens in Binghamton?
Well, he's got to get money somehow, right?
Yeah, but was the robbery like a last-minute thing?
No, this was planned out meticulously. Rulloff, Jarvis, and Dexter, they set their sights on a dry goods store in Binghamton.
A dry goods store, okay.
And their plan was to use chloroform on the two clerks who lived above the shop.
Chloroform. Seems like an odd choice.
It was. Risky, too. There were safer sedatives they could have used, but Rulloff, he always trusted his own ingenuity. Maybe he thought chloroform would be faster, or didn't realize how strong it was. Whatever the reason, it backfired.
How so?
They got into the store, no problem, but Jarvis, he accidentally made a noise, woke up one of the clerks, a guy named Frederick Merrick.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Merrick grabs a gun he kept under his pillow, tries to shoot Rulloff.
Things escalated quickly?
Oh, yeah. The gun misfired, but that doesn't stop Merrick. He grabs a stool, throws it at Rulloff, who's already trying to get out of there.
What about the other clerk?
Oh, right. Ilbert Burroughs, the other clerk, he tackled Dexter. Total chaos.
So Rulloff just panicked and shot Merrick.
Well, he fired a warning shot first, trying to scare them. But Burroughs backed off, but Merrick, he's all adrenaline and righteous anger, goes after Jarvis.
Trying to protect his friend?
Yeah. And Rulloff, seeing Jarvis in trouble, he fires again, but Merrick keeps coming at him. So Rulloff, in a moment of desperation, aims right at Merrick's head and fires.
So the robbery turned deadly.
It did. They run from the scene, but it's a mess. Miss their getaway boat, end up trying to swim across the Chenango River.
I imagine that went well.
It didn't. Jarvis and Dexter, they're exhausted, clothes weighing them down, they drown.
And Rulloff?
He makes it to shore, survives, but he leaves something behind, something important.
What, like a weapon?
His boots. Remember how he lost those toes to frostbite?
Right. Those boots were practically unique.
Exactly. The police find the boots. They know exactly who they're looking for.
The chase is on.
Big time. Rulloff tries to blend in, get on a train out of town, but he gets spooked. When the authorities question him at the station, he bolts,
Runs for it.
takes off running across the tracks, hides in an outhouse.
Doesn't sound like the smartest move.
Desperation makes you do crazy things. They caught him pretty quickly, and as fate would have it, someone in the crowd recognizes him.
Who?
Judge Ransom Belcom.
Oh, wow, the judge from his early
The
trials?
one and only. Belcom knew Rulloff, knew how smart, how manipulative he could be. He warns the authorities, this guy's slippery, don't let him fool ya.
I bet they listened this time.
Oh yeah, this time they weren't taking any chances. They followed the trail to Brooklyn, where Rulloff had an apartment under the name Edward C. Howard.
Did they find anything there?
Jackpot. Stolen goods from Binghamton, stuff linking him to past crimes, and most importantly, letters, documents, all in Rulloff's handwriting.
No more hiding.
Nope, the game was up. The trial starts in January of 1871, and it becomes a media circus. The genius killer, that's what they called him. The whole country was fascinated.
It's such a bizarre story, so many layers to it.
Right. Rulloff represents himself again, playing the legal game. But this time, it doesn't work. Too much evidence.
Was anyone on his side?
Public opinion was actually divided. Some thought he was a monster. Others were drawn in by his intelligence. How could someone so smart be so bad, kind of thing. Even Horace Greeley, the big shot editor of the New York Tribune, he called for clemency.
Wow, some powerful people in his corner.
And Mark Twain, the writer, he wrote this satirical piece in the Tribune mocking Rulloff's supporters. It was a huge deal, this case. Made people really think about crime, punishment, the whole nature versus nurture thing.
So what happened? What was the verdict?
Guilty. March 3, 1871. Sentenced to death by hanging.
Wow. End of the line.
Yeah, on death row, he confesses to the murders of his wife and daughter, gives all these chilling details.
Maybe a last attempt to manipulate, or maybe genuine remorse? Who knows?
The execution was a big public event. Thousands of people showed up to watch the genius killer meet his end.
What about his final words? Any famous last pronouncements?
It's funny, the accounts differ. Some say he would defy it, others say resigned. The mystery remains.
But the story doesn't quite end there, does it?
It doesn't. They took Rulloff's brain, sent it to Cornell University.
His brain. Why?
Criminal psychology, it was a hot topic back then. They wanted to see if there was something, different about the brains of criminals. Maybe his unusually large brain held some answers.
So his brain became a scientific special.
It did. Still on display at Cornell today. It's a reminder of this man, this brilliant, brutal enigma.
What a story. It makes you think about the nature of good and evil, the complexity of the human mind.
Right. Rulloff's life shows us that intelligence and morality, they're not always connected. And sometimes, genius can be a curse.
It definitely leaves you with a lot to ponder. Nature versus nurture, free will, what makes us human, it's all there.
Well, that was our deep dive into the life of Edward H. Rulloff. A wild ride for sure.
Thanks for joining us as we explore this fascinating and frankly disturbing story.
And to our listeners, keep those minds curious and remember, the most captivating stories are often the most unsettling.